6 is counting down.
Yeah, we can all see it.
Cool. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the Locus 2022 FME World Tour event. Today I'm just going to put this in present mode, quickly go through the agenda, and then introduce to you our first speaker. So just bear with me a little bit while I just work my way through a few of these slides, and here we are. So we're going to start with Mathew Cooper from Electra, who'll be talking with Darren Fergus. After that, at 1 o'clock, we've got a round table. Mark Island from SAFE, Bruce Harold is a late call-up from Esri, Darren, Karen, and Pip from Locus will be there. And then Darren's going to take us through indoor mapping, which is really a growth area. Andrew Old and Ruby Seeley Lawson from Balance Agri-Nutrients are going to round out our day with a client presentation. We'll be back a little bit later on to say our thanks, but for now, it's with great pleasure that I can introduce to you Mathew Cooper from Electra. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, Mathew. And Mathew is, as I say, the network systems manager there. Electra picked up FME and have run with it like Usain Bolt has. So, Mathew, it's over to you, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much, John. I'll just commence sharing my screen. Right, I'm assuming you can all see that. So yeah, thanks again, John, for the introduction. For those of you concerned about the fact that I'm sitting here hacking and sound rather nasally, it's not COVID, I promise. Rat tested myself twice yesterday, once again this morning, and apparently I'm all clear, so this is good. I was asked to speak today basically just to introduce, well, I guess, take you on a journey along the ride really that Electra has taken in our identification of FME as a product, as a tool, and just as really what's become quite a valuable platform within the Electra world. I'll start off first just by, I guess, introducing myself a little bit. I'll forgive John this time for hashing my my title a bit, though it is a bit of a mouthful. Well, as you can see there, I'm a man rather than a manager. So my name's Mathew Cooper. I'm the Network Digital Systems Manager for Electra. Effectively, my role sort of deals with anything to do with control systems, anything to do with our supervisory control and data acquisition systems, SCADA for those of you that know the industry, outage management systems, advanced distribution management systems, and our GIS platform and all the associated data. I'm originally, as some of you might have picked up, from South Africa, though I've been in New Zealand since about 2007. My entire career to date has been more of an IT background, covering or spanning, all the way from engineering through architecture and management. Been in the electricity distribution industry for probably would be 13 years now, since around about 2009, and I've been at Electra since 2015. So that's a little bit about me. Who is Electra? Well, Electra's, I think we are the 9th or the 10th largest electricity distribution business in New Zealand. We're located south, the sort of the bottom end of the the North Island, above Wellington and below Palmerston North. We're sorry, there we go. So actually on the slide, we're the 9th largest lines company. 200 odd million in network asset value, 2,300 Ks of circuit supplies, and give or take 47,000 customers across our region. So we own and operate the electricity distribution network on behalf of the Electric Trust. Our mission effectively is we're just committed to delivering safe, reliable, affordable power to our customers. I mentioned we're trust owned, so the focus is on giving them the best value and then returning them, well, actually underlining that, just giving them the best value. Then we get to the topic, I guess, of the discussion, which is really the dots, and I chose that really for a specific reason. Up until, I'd say probably a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, like many other EDBs, especially of our size and smaller, we've got mounds of information that are flowing into the business. There's a heck of a lot going on. The trouble with that, though, is that unless you've got mounds of people to actually sit there and interpret and derive the value out of that data, you're only getting a fraction of what you could be. We recognized this about a year ago, and also wanting to improve our posture, wanting to improve the value that we derive out of the information that we get. We realized that we needed something to be able to tie all these pieces together and just give us a simple and easy way to understand and derive just additional value from the data, again with a focus to improving the value or increasing the value that we can give back to our customers. So I guess to summarize in 3 points, we identified that there's value that we are losing by not using as much of the data as we can. We realized that this also then contributes to inefficiencies because you're making decisions based on the data available. And if you don't have all the data, the decisions are only going to be partially there. Then we also initially identified some low-hanging fruit, things where we could actually derive some really short-term value and get a lot of bang for buck and business benefit. We've been through this journey for a couple of years. We've implemented another enterprise service bus solution for a specific purpose. It's safe to say that it's likely that solution will be replaced gradually. The functionality of that will be gradually replaced by FME as we move forward. Just because we've grown our level of confidence in the use of FME over a short space of time, whereas the other product was a lot more difficult to manage. So moving into the actual dots. So as a business, these are some of the areas where we receive information in, but we weren't necessarily reconciling or collating it with other areas of the business. As you can see, the model was really that we have people in the center being bombarded by different sources of information. Then it's really up to the capability of that individual to be able to make sense of it all, derive some value, and then feed it back to the business. There's a lot of time wastage that goes there, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and really the only way to improve the way you do things is just by adding more people. And that's really not the answer because you're not improving things as you go along. So initially we identified the need to be able to congregate all these different sources together. And a little bit later on, I'll show you some of the just a brief overview into some of the projects that we've run with, and then also what we're looking at moving forward on the horizon. But essentially, it was about taking all of these different inputs, I guess, centralizing it through FME as call it the enterprise service bus, I guess, at this layer, but really the main integration engine, and then giving individuals, team members, a structured view of what it is that they need to see, rather than bombard them with everything and expect them to make up their own decisions. As with many other, in fact, probably most, if not all, other lines businesses or people in our industry, you'll recognize some of the technology on this page as being consistent throughout the industry. So the problem that we were facing wasn't just something for us. It was it's something that's commonly felt throughout the industry. Like most other EDBs, or a lot of other EDBs, we use ArcGIS for our GIS platform. Others include, I guess, Small World and Hexagon, things like that. We use the MillSoft suite for our advanced distribution management and outage management systems. Influx data to manage our time series data sets, Res IoT for our IoT fleet. So a lot of this stuff you'll see, and of course the Electricity Authority, which is our guiding body. So a lot of this stuff will be synonymous across certainly our businesses in terms of the lines industry, but other businesses as well. This is not specialist by any stretch of the imagination. It could be applied elsewhere. Moving into the first solution or first opportunity that we identified. Again, like a lot of other ESBs or ELBs, lines businesses. In the earlier days, it was more prominent to focus on your high voltage assets, because typically you had telemetry across them. The high voltage is bang for buck. If you sort the fault out at the source higher upstream, then the impact is felt by more people downstream. And this is sort of a common method that's been applied for quite a few years. We've now progressed to a point where we have identified that there's actually a lot more value in understanding what's happening at the end of the chain and not just at the beginning. When I say just, this has been on the cards for probably 10 years, but or longer. But it's historically been quite unsustainable to deploy mass sensors out. Before I guess the evolution of IoT and that sort of type of low cost infrastructure. So the first cab off the rank for us is that we actually wanted to get a better picture of what was happening on our network as experienced by our customers. We don't want to just rely on what the systems are telling us at the high level. We wanted to understand what the experience was further below. So what we then decided to do is we developed what we term as a phase loss sensor. In essence, it's a low voltage sensor. It sits there, plugs into all three phases of a power line, and when the voltage drops below a certain level, it then triggers a signal that goes via our LoRaWAN network into our Res IoT server, up to FME, and then eventually back into our outage management system. That cycle takes it's probably under 5 seconds for that cycle. And then what you would see is a representation of that fault on our outage management system to let us know that a customer, if it's monitoring a single customer or a group of customers on a low voltage circuit, have been impacted. This provides us with a couple of benefits, really. We're able to proactively respond to faults before a customer actually calls in to advise that they're without power. So the message goes from we apologize that you might be experiencing an issue. We'll dispatch someone to come and see what's going on, to a case of, yes, we know about it, we're on our way. And that sort of cuts down the inconvenience to the customers. The other benefit to that as well is, where was I? So the other benefit to that really as well is the fact that these are low cost units, and we can deploy at a cost of about $300 or $400. We can just deploy a huge number of these out into the field and get a really good feel for what's going on at a more granular level. So at present, we've got just under 150 of these sensors deployed, with another 100 that were meant to be deployed this year. Unfortunately, supply chain issues resulting from COVID have sort of put a bit of a brake on that, but we're still set on deploying more of these out there, just so that we can continue to build a more high resolution picture of what's going on across the network. This was sort of the eye-opener type project. I spent a lot of time with Darren and the Locus team developing this first solution. We really went from something that was not well known to us in the business. I don't know, Darren, we seem to have a lot of fun in those
100%.
hackathon type sessions.
Yeah, look, honestly, I look at what you've achieved now since when we first started, and you're off doing a whole load of other things, right? And actually, just for everybody's benefit, I love the word that Mathew uses there, like hackathon. That's if you think about the most optimal approach, right, to solving a problem when you don't have necessarily the skills to deal with specific software, i.e. FME in this instance. But Mathew, if you look at it like this, right, so, Locus have got the skills with FME, but we don't really understand all their infrastructure, i.e. Electra, and Mathew's got all the understanding of all the infrastructure, the MillSoft, the different applications, how the XML needs to be formatted and structured and where the request comes from, where it needs to go, and all those different types of things. And you put those two minds together, you're going to have a lot of fun. Right. And, we would do these, like, honestly, they were probably 3-4 hour long hackathons, Mathew, right? Like me and you are both like, when we got a problem put in front of us, like, we want to solve that. Right. And that was really cool. So I suppose in a nutshell, like, seeing where that went from, from just an idea and then putting that, like, proof of concept's massive thing. Right. So when we designed this proof of concept together, you were able to go to your management team. And how did that go for you? That went well, right?
Well, it absolutely did, because of the way that we could very easily bring them along the journey. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is how we're going to achieve it. And by the way, it's actually not costing you a lot of money. Just talking about money, though, you'll need to remind John, Darren, that I'm still waiting for my paycheck for those hackathons. I'm sure he's put it in the post, but it's just taking a bit longer than...
you have a tough job getting any money out of John, huh?
No, but to be honest, the benefit that I've got from those hackathons, as well as I've never attended any of the training, which this is probably to your detriment, I guess. Darren, I've never attended any of the Locus training yet. The amount that I've learned about FME from those interactive sessions with yourself, it's actually there's the value that's been derived out of that that's been really, really useful. But I won't keep you too long, Darren. I'm sure you were busy doing okay, just
busy watching you telling all the cool stories.
Yes, well, so
I don't
anyway,
take the punchline away, so it's all good.
all good, all good. So really, what you're seeing on the screen there, this was our first attempt at deriving some value out of it, and yes, we probably could have done it a million different ways, but this was by far the easiest and the quickest, and certainly the most reliable. The next cable of the rank for us, because this is currently in production here at the moment, so we get to get a really, really good understanding of what's going on. The next sort of cable for the rank that we've been playing around with is developing our own sort of weather network. And people sort of ask, well, actually, you're a power lines company. What do you care about what the weather's doing across the network? And again, it's about the granularity of what is going on from a weather perspective. As with any other lines company, we have unplanned outages. These outages can be caused by weather events, and in fact they are. And we have to dispatch people to those areas to go and address those weather events. So when you look at it that way, the ability for someone who might be in one region, for them to be able to look at the granular conditions in another region and understand how they need to prepare themselves for that, or whether to wait going out until the conditions improve, that's quite valuable from a health and safety perspective. We don't want anybody to be at risk when they work, or at more risk than they need to be, I guess, inherently because of the profession. We want them to be safe and to be given the information to make all the best choices that they can. Again, we've got 15 weather stations deployed. We're going to be deploying another 10 to 15 this coming year. And that's really going to fill our catchment area in quite nicely and give us really granular information about what's going on. Again, leveraging the Davis sort of weatherlink.com service. We're using FME to query that service and to feed that information into ArcGIS, which we've then combined into our local maps layer, which our faultmen are able to then access and see what's going on. And then I've also got it flowing into Influx for analytics. And the reason why that's important is because each one of our weather stations have got solar and UV radiation sensors. So it's conceivable that we could be using the trend information from these weather stations to sort of look at what the potential generation could be from photovoltaic energy production systems, or electricity panels, that sort of thing. And that all ties in quite nicely with how the network has to grow and support the introduction of electric vehicles and the additional loads and that sort of thing. So really, it's about us starting to gain a bit more understanding of the environment around us to see how that's going to affect the planning that we need to do planning and investment that we need to do moving forward. plus, it's a lot of fun having your own little weather network.
Hey, Mathew, just
hello.
on that, so we've had a question from Mark, and I responded in the comments there. But just for everybody's benefit, when we talk about, when we've got using these sensors are actually sending via webhook to FME server, right? That's so it receives a payload, so it's a trigger action event, right? So
it absolutely is. So the logic behind it, and Mark, thank you for the question. But the logic behind it essentially is when the PLS sensor detects a low voltage event, it sends a packet through via our LoRaWAN network to our Res IoT server. From there, the action at the Res IoT server is then to send a payload through to a webhook at FME. On FME, shall I say. So effectively, there's an active webhook on FME sitting there, just waiting to receive the payload from those PLS sensors, which is then obviously passed, reconstructed into a multi-speak payload format, and sent into our OMS MillSoft outage management system. So it's very, very close, quick turnaround time for when that occurs. And in point of fact, just in the event you couldn't see as much as you would like to, that is one of those sensors that we put up on a pole or in a pillar or something like that. Fairly compact, as you can see. I've just got a switch box below that just to simulate the phases. But that's the little unit over there. So inside there is a LoRaWAN radio for communication.
Cool.
I hope that answers your question.
Hey, thanks a lot for that, Mathew. Appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, no trouble. So back to sort of the weather network side. So we've got that information flowing and available to us at the moment. I also made the call to make that information public because there's no harm in giving customers or people in our region access to more weather information. So that's available to anyone really via the Weather Underground network, for those of you that might be interested. It's a pleasure, Mark. Thank you. The last sort of solution that I'll introduce over here was probably this was probably one of the biggest. I think, Darren, you'll probably agree with me on this one. It's quite an intricate system due to the way in which we have to provide the solutions back to customers. So some of you might be aware of the Before You Dig service. And that service is available for anyone who's wanting to develop in an area to understand what utilities, power, water, telecommunications, fiber might be running in that area, so that they know best where to start work on development side of things. Historically, we used to get maybe, 20 of these a month. We probably get about 15 of these a day at the moment. There's quite a high volume of them, but it obviously goes in fits and starts. The development of transmission gully, I guess it has, but it hasn't helped in recent months because development in over our catchment area or over our operational area is growing quite significantly. So we're seeing a lot of that come through. Historically, it was a very manual process where the requester would request the service from Before You Dig. We would receive an email, and then from there on, we would have to go and process it manually, generate the maps and layers out of GIS, and then email it back to the customer. Turnaround for that was maybe 2 or 3 days, depending on the size of the job. Clearly, that's not sustainable when you're doing 15 a day. So what we elected to do, and this is a first step towards, I guess, our next solution, but what we elected to do is, in the interest of expediency, we thought, well, let's automate this process. And I think this is possibly the reason why neither I nor Darren have a particularly large amount of hair. We ran into all sorts of issues, from processing times to email authentication issues to all sorts of weird and wonderful problems that on the onset didn't look like they needed to be problems, yet they were there anyway. But literally what we've actually done now is we've gone from in sort of February, we went from what would have been a total of 156 hours to process down to a 4 hour for all of those. And that's essentially just the time that it takes to spot check to ensure that what is being produced is in fact what the request has asked for. And I don't think any of those spot checks have ever turned up anything where the result was unexpected. So the way in which it's been crafted is just it's seamless. But that was a bit of a nightmare, Darren.
Yeah, it was tough. Look, it was and again, it comes down to that whole thing, right? You know, we don't know your systems inside out like you do, and it's not just us working on it, right? Like we have to collaborate with IT, right? And so we give a specification IT, hey, we need this, this, and that. We need these ports open. They go, yep, we've done that. And then we test it and it doesn't work. And then you go back to IT, hey, you know, this isn't working. Can you just double check? No, we've done it. We've done it. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, we didn't do it on that machine. You know, so like, and that's life, right? It's mistakes. But I think where it helps is, you know, again, you know, collaboratively working with you, Mathew, is, you know, one, you've got leverage and you can push things over your end. But I can say, hey, look, Mathew, we've done some extra testing, and really, it looks like it's this. You know, we're pretty confident based on what we've done that it is this is a problem. And right enough, IT go, oh yeah, sorry. You know, so having the confidence to know what the likely problem is helps you be able to get these over the line versus somebody that might just sit there and go round in circles trying to look for something that doesn't exist, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's quite important. But I also think one of the good things that we did with the design on this, because we realized there were a couple of things that were catching us out at the very start. Like you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what you don't know, what can you do? You can put in ways to capture things that might come through as a problem. Like, for example, dial before you dig process comes in, email with an attachment. There's no attachments. Well, we know if there's no attachments, that could be somebody's putting a request, or maybe it's a response to an email that's gone out from them, right? So we can build in, you know, like validation with what's being received and all those different types of things. So we've got a pretty robust system now. You know, we've got error checking in there. We archive stuff so we can always go back to it and rebuild it. You know, we capture the original emails coming in so we can reconcile if there was any issues and what might have happened there and work through that process. I mean, even while we were talking earlier on, you know, I've received about 8 emails through because I still get copied in as a way to monitor what's coming in, make sure it's okay, you know? So, yeah, that's cool. It's a really good story. It's one of the best things that I think we've achieved there, especially from time, right?
Oh, absolutely. I tend to agree. And I mean, the beauty of it, of course, is that it started off as being how do we optimize a process? So I started off from a process to now it's actually it's gone through that whole development cycle to actually be a solution rather than just a function. My GIS team don't know themselves for not having the additional workload, unnecessary workload of this. They can now actually focus on the regulated data sets, on improving processes and improving generating additional value out of our GIS systems, rather than focusing time on an operation, on an administrative function, really, that requires very little skill.
And you know what you just said. Sorry, Mathew. What you just said there as well is important, right? Because some people think, oh, it's automation. It's going to replace our roles. It's going to replace our jobs. Like, who wants to be sitting there doing ridiculously mundane tasks over and over when you can absolutely be focused on the big problems in the organization? Like, where's the data coming from? What are the problems with that? Instead of us having to fix it up so that we can process it, how about we engage with those teams to work out what they need that we can give them to support them so that we get better data.
That's it,
right? So that we have better processes in place and we can cut out things that we don't need anymore by something central like FME as an ESP, right? You know?
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, sort of semi-related to this one, I mean, the other that's probably the biggest area of the business where we've used FME and where we continue to use it, though I don't want it to be exclusively in this area, is certainly in our GIS team. Our GIS team manage, obviously GIS information, but in addition to that, they're responsible for the connectivity information when it comes to customer accounts. So if there's anyone on the line from another EDB, you'll understand the life cycle of a customer requesting a new connection, how it needs to go through the distribution companies, out to the retailer, and then back again. It's I'd like to say that it's a nice, simple exercise, but in reality, it's not. There's a lot of curveballs and there's a lot of compliance. So we've implemented probably 3 or 4 different solutions in FME, which manage everything from any differences in information between the electricity registry and our local records, such as if a connection's gone live before being in a certain state. We do daily automated compliance checks to make sure that we don't fall into a situation of compliance. Those are always backed up by manual compliance sessions or manual compliance reviews on a weekly basis, but they're quick because everything is there, everything is generated. So there's 3 or 4 different things that FME does by pulling down FTP files from SFTP from the registry, comparing the information with local data sets, letting us know when something's changed that's unexpected or not according to the way that the registry wants to receive the information. And we're in a position now where we're able to head off most non-compliances before they occur. The biggest impact that is probably actually one of the huge areas of impact that it's had to our business, because the most recent compliance audit that we did resulted in the best result we've had in the past 10 years. And that's because we were able to demonstrate and improve maturity, because now we've got the information at our fingertips, and we're no longer needing to go and look for it, find it, be surprised by things that we didn't know were an issue until after they were an issue. So we're getting a lot of benefits in other areas, might maybe not be quite as prominent as a strategic project, but on an operational level, the value is tangible. And when you look at the value versus effort, the effort to set up those tests wasn't huge. It maybe took me 2 days, 3 days to develop a solution, but the amount of time that it saved relative to that is, and moving forward, the amount of effort that it saves on a regulatory front, it makes a hell of a difference to the business. So it's been nice to be able to do that and have the experience of developing a solution and having it return value immediately, rather than continuing to work over maybe it'll provide value at some point. This is very much a have a problem, here's a fix, get on with it. So it's worked really, really well for us, and I think that the ability for us certainly to get on a call and talk about these things and see how the best way is for us to get this together has really been valuable. But I guess I'll get to blowing smoke up your skirt in a couple of slides. I'll just move on to my next one before that, Darren, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine, man.
So that's kind of there's those things and a few other things that we've been working on up until now. But what that's actually done for us as well is that it's opened up a realm of possibilities, things that before we thought were possibly out of reach for one reason or another. Either we didn't feel the technology was there, either we weren't confident that even if it was, that we'd be able to leverage it in a way that was valuable, or even just whether it was within our price bracket, because ultimately, we're trust owned, we're accountable for every dollar that we spend, so we have to make sure that everything that we spend stacks up from a value perspective. And again, it's like any business, I guess. You've only got X amount of money. So what we're looking at on the horizon is really initiatives to, I guess it's all about efficiencies. We've been considering aerial and terrestrial LiDAR and photogrammetry. We've been looking at 360-degree photography, just so that we can try and simulate something like Google Street Maps, but for us. Why I say that is because we actually, and I'm sure other companies do too, refer quite a lot to Google Street Maps, because it's a really good resource for having a look and seeing, oh yes, a pole is there. The drawback with that, of course, is that Google Street Maps is not always up to date. So a cost-effective solution for us to be able to go and capture that information in high res, so we're talking about, at this stage, 8K resolution at a speed no faster than 60K an hour, then to be able to take that information and integrate it back into either our GIS, or augmented reality, or even just back into Google Street View, something like that. The ability for us to do that at a price point is that would mean a significant enabler to the business. Now we would have a high resolution data set that we could maintain and keep as current as often as we wanted to, within the reason of cost, or within reasonable costs, I should say. I mentioned augmented reality, so we've partnered up. We've got a proof of concept running at this stage. We've partnered up with AugView and implementing an augmented reality solution. Functionally, that's basically for us to, I guess, more of a focus from my perspective on underground assets. Normally, if you walk outside, if there's a pole there, you'll see it. But what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to see or to render what we can't see. Now, that doesn't for a minute mean that give someone augmented reality, they no longer need to go and do a cable locate, that they could actually go and dig up using the augmented reality solution. I would never say that, because it's as accurate as the data is that it is based on. So it's an idea that there is something there, and it is at this stage it wouldn't be accurate to a point of where I'd say confidently go and dig up that spot because you won't hit anything. This is an indicator, as is the before you dig system, really. For more accurate information, then that's a different kettle of fish. That's a cable locate request, and it's a high accuracy solution done by say teams like ours. But again, it's about not just about knowing where the information, where assets are, but it's also giving guys more information to work on in the field. So it's conceivable that in augmented reality they could point their device at, say, a transformer, and they would have a pop-up that gives them metrics on that transformer. It might be real-time data if we have a sensor on it. It might just be engineering data of maximum load, number of connected customers, so on and so forth. But it's about giving them that out in the field in a way that they can understand and easy to manage. Yes, you could give it to them in an app, but if you're out in the field and you're wearing all of the PPE that you should, and you've got nice big thick heavy gloves on, a phone or something like that is quite hard to use. So by and large, having a tablet or an application that you can simply point and at a stretch poke it on the screen somewhere to get you information is a lot better. And yes, I could say that we're looking at how that could translate into glasses and 3D, fully VR visors and those sorts of things. But for me at this point in time, it's a bit of a hard stretch thinking that I'll see one of our field crew walking around the streets with an Oculus head unit on. That being said, I live in Levin, and I've seen stranger things than that. So sort of back to the last point now on the top is I spoke a little bit about the phase loss sensors, really to give us better information on outages at a low voltage level. What FME really has given us through that project is it's given us a template now to look at what else can we get information from. Now, that doesn't mean that we're just going to indiscriminately try and get every piece of information that we can from someone's smart home device. This is obviously, it's all an ideal, but for us, the ability for us to be able to get more information from out where people are experiencing issues back in, the more points that we can get telling us that there's a problem, the higher our confidence level is where the problem is, which means the quicker that the higher, more confident that we are, the quicker we can find it. The quicker we can find it, the quicker we can fix it. So what FME has really given us is given us now a platform to be able to take signals from a myriad of different devices of different formats and feed it back into our systems, which are designed to take those feeds, look at them, and calculate with probability where the issue is likely to be. This is all stuff that's doable now. We've been looking at some third-party solutions and systems at the moment for integration. It's still in the early stages, but I can confidently say that that it is something that we're going to be growing on in the immediate future. So it just gives us better information to make those decisions, to be able to I guess deal with faults as quickly as possible, and just understand the impact. It just makes for a good news story for all around. So, I mean, what's on the horizon is that's just what's there now. There's other stuff too. So it's a continually growing sort of feature list or requirements list really that comes our way. I probably at this stage for an asset management project I'm on at the moment, FME features heavily on understanding our information, cross-referencing it to make sure that it's of the quality that we need, so on and so forth, making sure that inspections are correct and within timeframes. That's all done via FME. Yes, we could do it via SQL. Yes, we could do it via something else, but it's just far more convenient to do it in a flow type design within FME. It's just made life a lot easier and a lot more simple. At this point in time, as I'm talking to you, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 workspaces open on FME, and that's probably 7 hours of my day right there is just working through those 4 on particularly my asset management project at the time. So I use it quite extensively, and it has paid dividends. The cost versus value ratio, it's easily, if I look at the amount we're using it, is probably one of our cheaper solutions if I look at it that way. Moving on, I guess, to the next step. A solution is one thing, knowing what to do with it, and I guess knowing what to do with it, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, and if you don't know something, who to go to is really important. For a lot of the other solutions, and we've got quite a few of them in the business, you get varying levels of support and partnership. You get all the way from the clip the ticket, someone getting money to support you and providing average service, or the other way around, where you pay for your service and you actually get the service. Now, I've obviously had Darren in here, and by the way, I'm not paid to do this, just in case anyone's listening, though, John, I do still expect that check. From the inception, we partnered up with Locus in the earlier days, mainly because I think they were the FME distributor in New Zealand, but I guess that probably was more of a first step. Moving forward, we've continued to work very closely with Locus, and I think, Darren, you can probably either agree or disagree with me on this, but I don't typically tend to see us as a necessarily as your sort of traditional customer vendor relationship. I think we consider, and this is of my colleagues as well, we really consider, well, you in particular, but the wider Locus team, to be more part of us than a part. You deal with probably 3 or 4 different people within the business at any given point in time. So there's a lot of that close nurturing, comfort and development that happens. So really, we were lucky enough to obviously stumble across Locus, and the support that we get out of them is really, really good. There's at no point is there ever any question really about the competency when it comes to the solution. In fact, I think I phoned you 7 o'clock in the morning.
You also called me about 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, but that's it. We're like colleagues that work together every day almost, right?
Except you don't abuse me quite as much.
There's a couple of days, I guess, where we don't speak, but I know what it's like when I got a problem I want to solve, and I know you're very busy. So when you message me, I always make time for you, right? Because I enjoy it. That's the thing. I don't think of it. I really don't think Electra. Oh, it's Mathew from Electra, right? I just think, oh, it's my mate Mathew. He's stuck on something. I want to help you out, right? And it's cool, right? It is cool.
It absolutely is.
We've achieved so much in such a short space of time, and
exactly. And again, it goes to show that really does help, because those sessions, and I know I've said it now a couple of times, but those almost like those hackathon sessions, they've taught me a hell of a lot about the product, to a point of where I'm largely self-sufficient, and it's really only the either the things that I don't have time to do, or the things that I think will actually know. Darren's eye for detail will make this one, this is probably a better candidate for your eye for detail. I'll get the solution working, but man, am I terrible at bloody annotating it and bookmarking it and that sort of thing. It works, and only I know how to use it. But if I want it done clean and tidy, then or if it's of above my pay grade type technical knowledge, then that's when I call in the big guns, which are yourself and Pip. So really, it's important when you have any solution like this where you're beginning and you increasingly are more and more reliable on it as being an integral part of the business. It's important that you have that support. There's nothing more frustrating than having something that really becomes could be, I guess, a roadblock, but it's not. A single point of failure, we'll go with that. It's important that if you have anything like that, that you've got people that you can call on when things go wrong. This is technology. It goes wrong.
Totally. And you know what? Just on that, I mean, there are times where you phone me and I'm not 100% sure, but guess what? Two heads are better than one. It goes back to that. I know FME, you know the problem, you know what you're trying to do, and when I can see that, and we both get our heads together, and actually we've done that before, and I'll start talking about something, and straight away you're right in there modifying it, and like we get there, and it's like I've almost not had to say anything, right?
So are you trying to say that we finish each other's sentences?
It could be that kind of relationship.
You know what? Why not? Why not?
Maybe we should go on maths, right?
Why not? So I mean, look, having that support is really good, and we found that support obviously from Locus and the team, and we probably spend more time talking to each other than we do our spouses. We certainly know the details of each other's kitchen renovations, but that's why it's more of a relationship, and it's not just a transaction, and then that I find certainly works very well within our environment. In addition to the support, though, I mean, one thing that I've continued to be impressed by is actually the resources that you find from SAFE on FME as a product, the write-ups that they have on the transformers, but then also the actual information that's available from the community in terms of how they use things. The knowledge that I found there, or the solutions that I've derived out of that knowledge, has actually been fantastic. And again, that demonstrates to me that certainly within New Zealand, it's one of the better supported products that I can find, because there's just a wealth of information and really, really good local support. We struggle certainly with the other ESB solution that we're running, which I won't mention. We struggle with exactly that. Knowledge base is really lacking. User base is even worse. Support is not too bad, but you can sort of expect a reply maybe within 24 hours, and that's not always practical when you're dealing with things that that sort of need to happen a bit quicker than that. So having that strong support base within the country is quite important. And that's sort of what leads us on to that final point over there, is just having that community support. And there is quite a support community here in New Zealand, and I'm sure probably across the ditch as well over in Oz. I'm sure you guys will have quite a few users over there too. If not, then you should try and sort that out. That kind of brings me sort of to the end of what I've planned over here in terms of the presentation. I've got the next slide here just for questions, so I'm more than happy to take any questions that you guys have. Although otherwise I can just keep droning on in my really odd bastardized accent.
No, it's all good, mate. Hey, so while we're waiting for any questions to come through, so a couple of things. Just like to say thank you very much, Mathew. These are really kind words, actually, and genuinely, it's really nice to be able to work with you guys, and we've done lots of cool things, but you've achieved a lot as well, right? You are somebody that believed in FME. You were able, and actually, one of the things we're going to be talking about in the next session on the round table is what's the FME pitch? How do you get across the organization? And you've actually achieved a lot of that, right? Think small bite-sized chunks and so on, but I don't want to take it away from that. But you've achieved personally quite a lot, not just because of what you've been able to do and the people you've won over within the organization, but you've also, you've got your desktop certification, so in 18 months, you're now desktop certified. And I think you're...
Well, not quite. I've done the exam and I passed it. I just again...
Not done the thing. Yeah, so it's a work in progress. But you look at how you're working through those things now in a very short space of time, but also that you're now using FME in a really advanced way.
Yeah.
You know, like, and to create all these solutions, but more importantly, you're engaged with other people within your organization,
absolutely.
sharing your knowledge,
Yep.
right? And there now, you look at Joshua, right? He's now working with webhooks, triggers,
Yep.
and, you know, doing all sorts of cool stuff. You know, you got Phil there. He's looking to do
Yes.
stuff around data integrity, right? So it's like spreads. It's like, you know, it's like real good thing that manipulates its way through the organization in a real good way, because people really believe in it. They see it, and then they realize how easy it is to use. Right.
Actually, you touched on a very important point there, Darren. I realize that I spent a lot of this talking about how I've been using it, and how the impact has been with me within the part of the organization that I work within. I think it's important to note that I'm not the only person that uses it. There's a lot of interest, certainly within our side of the business, but I know that Phil, our software development manager, has been using it quite extensively as well. I know that Josh, our software developer, has also been using it and working with it, starting to build more solutions using it. So it's a good solution for a company our size. You don't need to be essentially, you don't need to be a programmer or a developer or a specialist. You can start off working with it at any layer, and you know, very easily just work through, upskill yourself, and learn how to get the best value out of it. And heck, we're still, as you said, 18 months in, and you've been very slack and not coming back to me with some training dates, but we've yet to do our first round of training, and yet here we are getting value out of it. That doesn't mean I don't want the training, because, you know, where we can improve the team's capability, hell, why wouldn't we do it? We've got a tool, as I said, comparatively speaking, the tool is dirt cheap compared to other solutions that are out there. Why would we not try and extract as much value from that as possible, and also leverage on people's interest in using the solution?
And it gives people an easy way, an opportunity to actually make a difference in their organization once it's in there, right? You know, with a few skills and a bit of training, and, you know, knowledge transfer within the business, with people that understand the business, and that they can relate what they understand with FME and how that relates to the business, makes it more optimal for them to get in, grinding away and making a difference, right? And
Yeah,
then all the other
absolutely.
skills come on the back of that, right? So yeah,
Perfect. I just see a comment there from Sam Keast. Very, very cool range of uses you've got there. Thanks, mate. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I spend a lot of time in the nuts and bolts of the business, and I'm always on the scrounge for where we can improve things from a process, or just from a not necessarily enhancement, but forgot the word I'm trying to use, but just where I can actually make existing things better. So sorry,
make them optimal, right? Make them optimal.
Optimizing, I guess, yeah, in a way. So nothing, as far as I'm concerned, if nothing's out of the realm, if I see something that could benefit from using a tool like this, then I look at it. You know, not everything stacks up from a process source. Actually, no, it's just valuable in and of itself, because you look at a process and go, actually, why are you doing that in the first place? You know, so it's actually helpful from that front. But I've certainly found this to be incredibly versatile, and it helps at with it being at the level of interoperability that it has with the Esri GIS platforms, and not just Esri though, just you know, GIS in general. Because we're extensive users, it really helps that there's a lot that's been developed targeting geospatial solutions. Not only, but you know, that really has made quite a few impacts, certainly for me over the past couple of days, trying to reconcile assets with different names. Just doing a neighbor finder. Hey, tell me what 2 points are within 10 meters of each other. Here we go. Oh, cool. Then it's likely that they're it. You know, that is something takes, I don't know, 5 minutes to do in FME if you're lucky, but probably an hour or two to do in ArcGIS or anything else like that. And that's assuming you know how to use ArcGIS, which, by the way, I don't. I look at it and it looks very nice, but I'm not an expert in that. That's not what I do. I like to play around in the data, and when you can see the potential of information and how it can connect, which I'm privileged to have been exposed to a lot of the data layer of the business, you'd be surprised what you can actually do and how much value you can return from it. So wholeheartedly encourage anyone that's not already using it to, or you at least have the lens on to look at where can we improve what we're doing at the moment. With a solution like this, then I wholeheartedly recommend that you do, because it is well worth it.
That's really good feedback there, Mathew, and that's awesome. And thanks as well, Sam, for bringing that comment up. That's cool.
One question I did have for you at the at the moment, Darren, and I didn't know if I wanted to embarrass you like this, but I think I'm going to. For those of you that don't know Darren, he runs a little side business called, what do you call it again? I should actually know.
There we go. Remember that,
yeah. So some of you might not know that. And one of the vehicles is a Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah.
What is the fuel economy that you get on that, and how is that hurting your pocket at the moment?
Oh, I mean, mate, like, it's pretty bad. Like, I probably get about, I mean, I drive it differently for the experience, right? So we're like smashing it to 100 kilometers an hour in less than 3 seconds, and we're chewing through the fuel, popping and banging under the tunnels, under the bridges. So I get about 4 kilometers for every liter of fuel, and every liter of fuel at the moment is $3.03. So yeah, it's 100% hard, and it's a process I can't fix with FME.
And I'm sure you've tried. No, look, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, thanks for the opportunity for me to, I guess, front up to this and have a bit of a share of the experience that we've been having over here. I wouldn't do it unless I felt passionately about the product and the effect and the impact that it's had within the business, and of course of the support that we get out of you guys, Darren, and obviously the wider safe/FME community. So just, yeah, thanks for the opportunity of being able to say my piece. I hope I haven't bored the 60 of you that are in here at the moment too much. Always happy to there's John with his 4 kilometers. I hope I haven't bored you too much, and yeah, welcome any questions or feedback.
Yeah, we give it there's about a 20-second lag, so we'll give it 20 more seconds or so, and then if we don't get any more questions, we'll tie that up. But yeah, I think we're pretty good now to finish up for lunch, so we'll just give it a few more seconds.
Fantastic. Lunch sounds good.
That was a lot of fun, actually. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, look, it was. I guess it would be nice to have it a little bit more interactive, if you know what I mean, like in a live sort of demonstration where you've got people there and you can interact with them. Is a bit different in terms of dynamic. But that being said, welcome to my world. As you can see behind me, there's bits and pieces and of posters and transformers and whatnot. And hey, you know, this is real life for me. So
100%. No, awesome. Okay, right. I think we're good to tie it up. Thanks, John. John's basically saying thanks, Mathew. Great session.
Very good. Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
And thanks very much. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Mathew.
Brilliant. No trouble. Cheers.